This screencast is here to help you learn how to set up, solve proportions. So it's a 3-step process. We're going to talk about how to set up proportions, then we're going to solve them, and then we're going to remember to circle our answers. Here is an example that I can use proportions to solve. Becca keeps track of her steps. She walked 6,400 steps the first week. At this rate, how many days would it take for her to walk 40,000 steps? I know I can use a proportion here because I've been given 2 different labels. I have steps, here's steps, and I'm also given time, but the times we measured in 2 ways, weeks and days. So in order for me to set up the proportion, I have to make a decision about whether I'm going to use weeks or days. So a proportion is going to be line equals line. So I look at the second sentence. The second sentence gives me my first ratio, 6,400 steps in 1 week. Now, since my next question has days, I'm going to change 1 week into 7 days. That way, my side-by-side labels will match. The second ratio is going to have a question in it. At this rate, how many days would it take to walk 40,000 steps? So I'm going to put 40,000 steps here. So that my side-by-side labels match. That would be how many days. So I put my unknown. That's supposed to be a D, sorry. So that now my side-by-side labels match. So rather than writing 1 week, I wrote 7 days because I'm trying to find the number of days. So there's the setup. Next, I need to solve. So I find the scale factor to solve. I use a calculator and I do 40,000 divided by 6,400, and to get my scale factor is 6 1/4. So I multiply 7 days times 6 1/4, and I get 43.75 days. So that's about 44 days. Since it makes sense to give, since we're talking about days, it would make sense to round up. So finally, I'm just going to circle my answer, about 44 days. Here's an example from your study guide. Alan runs 8 miles in 3 hours at a steady pace. How long does it take him to run 3 miles? So I know I have a proportion because I have numbers that have 2 different labels. There's miles and hours, and then it says how long, and I'm going to assume that I can give that answer in hours. That way I have 2 labels that I can set my proportion up with. So 8 miles in 3 hours. So I use the numbers in the first sentence with the labels to write my first ratio. Then the second ratio, I put miles next to miles, and I want to know how long, and so I'm going to use H because I'm trying to find the number of hours. So I find this, so that's my setup. Now I need to solve. So I find the scale factor. 8 times something is 3. So that scale factor is easy. It's just 3/8. So that means in the denominator, 3 hours times 3/8 is about, so that's 1 1/8 of an hour. So that should make sense because if 8 miles takes 3 hours, then 3 miles should take less than 3 hours. So 1 hour, 1 1/8 hours. So I'm going to circle that and that's my solution. So using proportions helps us to keep our work organized. It helps us to show how we're getting our answer, and it gives us a confidence that we have the correct answer. Continue working on your study guide, and good luck. Thanks.